action. Welcome back, all you movie kings and queens, to the Real Gay Movie Show. I'm your host, Mike Lovins, and once again, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Provost. Ryan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm just so fantastic, Mike. Thank you for asking. Hey, everyone out there.
You sound a little sleepy.
I'm not sleepy. I just had a Red Bull. Leave me alone. Quit coming for me, Mike. I'm sick of you.
All right. Well, so continuing with the news segment that we started last week, the newsreel, I have just one story to mention myself this week. So last week we talked about A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah.
So to bring that back around just a little bit.
We have to talk about Wrinkle in Time again, Mike.
No, just Ava DuVernay.
Oh, thank God.
Okay. So Ava DuVernay is going to be directing a movie for Warner Brothers and DC called The New Gods. Now, I'm not familiar with the New Gods. Are you familiar with it at all?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay. But I found it kind of interesting because, for one, so she'll then be the first black woman to direct a DC superhero film. And I feel like that could probably be the same.
She'll probably be the first black woman to direct any superhero
probably
film.
But I found it interesting because I really thought that after she had been looked at for Black Panther, that she was going to end up doing something in the Marvel universe. But the fact that she's doing a DC movie, I really found fascinating. But good for her, though. You know, apparently they found something in Wrinkle of Time that was worthy of. Maybe that's why she's going to DC and not Marvel.
I mean, I will say I was worried after the poor reception to Wrinkle in Time. Including my own poor reception to it.
Right.
I mean, I was worried because I think she is very talented, and even talented directors have a misstep every now and then. And so I'm really glad she's getting another opportunity to take on something. And I don't know New Gods, you don't know New Gods, and so maybe this is a property that she can have a little more license to have some creative freedom with, whereas maybe she didn't have that much of that with Wrinkle in Time. So hopefully it's a new start and she can do something awesome, because I really do believe in her, and can't wait to see what she does next.
I agree. So Ryan, how about you this week? Do you have anything that you want to talk about?
I mean, the thing me and all my friends are talking about is RuPaul's Drag Race, which you are an avid fan, right, Mike?
Yeah.
But so season 3 All Stars just wrapped up this past week. Lots of controversy around that. And so I will kind of tell you what happened, and you can react and tell our listeners your take on it, being not at all informed.
Gotcha.
So they got to the final 4 contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 3. So they brought back queens from previous seasons to compete. And throughout the season, the queens who won competitions each week had to eliminate one of their competitors who did not perform as well each week. And so for the final 4, they brought back all the eliminated queens. And the twist was the eliminated queens got to pick who the top 2 were, who then competed to win the title.
Okay.
And they ended up picking 2 queens who did not win a lot of challenges, so did not get the opportunity to eliminate them. And a lot of people are thinking they picked those 2 instead of another queen, Shangela, who won a lot of the competitions, the weekly competitions, and so she was responsible for eliminating a lot of these people. And they were the controversy is
jealous bitches.
Yeah, did they bring some personal stuff into this to pick other people who maybe weren't as deserving? So what are your thoughts on that, having no context except what I just told you?
I mean, I can't imagine at all that there'd be a group of gays bringing some baggage into their decision making.
Exactly. Why would they do this? It's supposed to be, this is the All-Stars, and they call the winner of All-Stars, they call those the Hall of Fame. And some of these Eliminate Queens literally said, oh, we should give it to this queen because she doesn't have as big a name or as big a career as some of the others. And this would really be a big boost for her. And I'm a big sports fan, and I've never heard that being justification for putting someone in the Hall of Fame. You put people in the Hall of Fame who are legends, legendary, and they were quibbling over, well, let's give her a leg up. She deserves it. No, that's not what a Hall of Fame is made of.
It sounds like like it's
no, that's some shade. That's some shade. They were doing it because they were mad Shangela eliminated them when they were in the competition. And so I really didn't like, I've really loved the twists that they've done on all the All-Star seasons of, especially the last two, season 2 and 3 of All-Stars for Drag Race. I did not like that.
Well, so we both saw a movie this week. Why don't we start talking about that?
Let's talk about it, Mike.
So this week we are talking about Love, Simon, and boy, this movie just grabbed me by the heartstrings and yanked and tugged, and that's probably a little too risque for this high school movie, but
it's just your heartstrings, Mike. Get it together. It's fine.
So anyway, real quick, the basic plot of Love, Simon is Simon is a 17-year-old boy in high school, and he's got a big secret. He's gay. So when someone anonymously posts on the school's blog that they are also gay, Simon starts an email relationship with this mysterious boy, neither revealing their true identities. But when a classmate catches a peek of Simon's emails and posts them on the blog, Simon is forced to come to terms with who he is and reveal it to the world. Ryan, what were your initial thoughts before you went into the movie on this?
I mean, I saw this trailer for the first time, I think, when I saw Call Me By Your Name. And I was actually pretty excited about this one. But I would say cautiously excited because one trope I get tired of in gay focused movies is the whole coming out story. Mm-hmm. I think it's really hard to do in an original way because so many movies and TV shows have dealt with the topic of coming out. And so to do it in a way that feels original and authentic, I think is a degree of difficulty that is really high. And so for that reason, I was a little cautious about my excitement for this one. But I was still excited because the trailer was pretty funny. I really like the cast.
Yeah, the cast was great.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to that. So I was excited on this one. I was pretty high on it going in, and then saw that it was getting some good reviews. Not just from my gay friends who were seeing it a little bit before me and loved it, but also from Rotten Tomatoes. And so critics really liked it. So I went in with at that point, very high expectations after I saw a lot of the positive reaction that it had. What about you, Mike?
So, like you, I was highly anticipating this movie, but I started getting a little cautious because so I'm signed up to get those like advanced screening passes and stuff like that. And
aren't you a fancy pants man, Mike?
Anybody can do it.
I'm signed up to get early movie passes.
I see movies for free.
I see movies before you. Continue.
Okay. So I got at least 4 passes for different screenings before I ended up seeing it probably on the 5th pass that I got. So what had me concerned there was that they weren't confident enough that enough people were going to see this, so they were like blasting out passes trying to get as many people to see it ahead of time and try and spread some word on it.
Or they were targeting you because you're gay.
That could be.
Maybe they just knew. They're like, let's get this homo in here.
His name is Lovins. He's got to be gay.
So, yeah, maybe it was that.
Yeah, so I did eventually end up going to one of the screenings. And actually, I brought my daughter. She really wanted to see this movie. And it was Wednesday night. I thought, well, what the hell? A little daddy-daughter night. And she loved it.
Yeah?
And I loved it. And then I took my husband to see it, and he loved it. So Yeah. So the moral of the story is it's a great movie.
Yeah, so I know we've talked about two. This is our third episode talking about a new movie. The first two we talked about, let's see, what would you say I thought of them?
I'd say that they left something to be desired.
Yeah, I hated them. I hated them, and so yeah, I definitely run the risk of being the bitter, angry, hateful queen of the show. But I gotta say, Mike, third time's a charm. I loved this movie. I love Simon. It is so good. It exceeded my expectations. It was the best version of this movie I possibly could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Call Me By Your Name, I listened to the audiobook of this one before seeing it.
Did Armie Hammer read that one too?
He didn't.
No.
I know that.
Jerk.
So sad. So then, it's the common thing with books. If you know the book ahead of time, you worry about then how that's going to translate to the screen. And they did switch up a few things.
I didn't even know this one was a book.
You didn't?
No. Then this is our third movie in a row that is based on a book.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original title is Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda.
I like that. Is it really?
Yeah, that's the actual title.
Huh.
And it's written by a woman.
Okay.
I loved what they changed, and I'm not going to get into it here, but what few things that was changed for the sake of the movie, I think benefited the movie.
It enhanced the movie.
Yeah.
Is this an occasion where the movie was better than the book?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think they're both great for their particular mediums, but
Okay.
the things that they changed, I think for the time constraints that you have in a movie and stuff like that, helped the story along better in that form.
Well, yeah, you definitely, anytime you adapt a book into another visual medium, whether it's a TV series or a movie, you have to make some sort of creative decision. So
I feel like they didn't do that with Wrinkle in Time, though, man.
Jesus. I don't know. Neither of us read that one. So.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, anyway, let's
let's leave that one in the past, Mike. Don't ever talk about that movie again with me.
That's it.
This is a good week.
Seal.
Let's keep it positive.
Okay.
Good week.
Okay.
Love Simon.
Love Simon. So one of the things that I really appreciated about this movie was that I think that it beautifully walked the line between funny and dramatic. But it was also entertaining while still delivering a positive message. It didn't like beat you over the head, but I thought it had something to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that with gay movies, they often toe a line between being too campy and unrealistic, and sometimes in really good ways, sometimes in really fun ways. And then, like we just talked about To Wong Fu, which I think is a great example of a really campy movie, but in a good way.
Right.
Fun. And then they go too serious or too artsy and almost too dramatic, which was my beef with Call Me By Your Name.
Okay.
Like, that just doesn't appeal to me. And like I've said about that movie, I get why it's good. I understand that it's a great piece of art, but as far as being a relatable human story about the gay experience, I didn't get that from that movie as much. This one was just so authentic and relatable. You can see some version of your own experience in these characters. It may not be the exact same, but you can feel them and what they're going through, especially if you are a member of the LGBT community. If you've ever had to come out or think about coming out or have that fear about that. And one thing I always tell my friends is it's been so long since I've come out. Gosh, it's been like 13 years at this point. And so sometimes I feel like I lose touch with what it was like to live a closeted lifestyle because it's been so long.
Yeah.
I came out around the same age that Simon does in the movie. And so this movie brought back a lot of those like feelings and experiences for me, and I reflected back on my own experience, and that was really cool. And I thought that the way this movie portrayed Simon's experience really made it something that a lot of people can see themselves in some way.
Right. Yeah. My circumstance, I didn't connect as well as far as like the coming out story goes. Coming out so much later in life and under different circumstances. I wouldn't change anything. I've got kids and all that. I wouldn't go back in time if I could.
Right.
But it did make me almost a little jealous of Simon and people who were able to come out as teenagers and live more of their life more authentic. So I felt like I kind of lived it a little bit vicariously through the movie.
Yeah, and this movie is a great template. Like, I would recommend any, parent of a gay or questioning child to see this movie, because I think that it just really shows in a good way that experience of thinking about coming out, thinking about what life will be like when you come out, that kind of fear and trepidation, but also excitement. Like, oh my gosh, when I can finally be out, won't that be a great time? But oh my gosh, what will it look like, and how will my life be different? And one thing I take for granted is, with it being, 2018, I came out in 2005, so 13 years ago. It looks different now in 2018 than it did in 2005.
Right.
It looked different in 2005 than it did, decades before that. And I've always thought, well, it's so easy now. I wish I could come out. I wish my coming out would be now instead of, 2005. But what this movie does really well is it paints what will always be true about coming out, which is that fear of, or concern about, will other people look at me differently?
Yep. Yep.
Will I have to become an entirely different person? Will all my relationships with my friends and my family change? And that really hit me. It's like, wow, because, I always say, oh, it's so easy for kids these days. Well, they still have that. Even if they think that their friends and family will accept them, they may look at them completely differently from here on out. And being able to hold on to that sense of who you are before coming out is something that a lot of people may really hold on to. And so that really struck me with this movie.
I really like how the characters in this movie all seem to have a purpose. You know what I mean? They all had a backstory. We knew that Simon and Nick and Leah had been friends since kindergarten. We knew that Abby joined the group like 3 months before the movie takes place, and where she came from, and the issues with her parents' divorce and stuff like that.
Well, what they do really a good job of in this movie is they give you just enough information about people, about their relationships, or just enough interactions between characters to where you know everything you need to know about each character and nothing more.
Right.
Like, movies do a bad job, where movies fail is when they don't establish any relationship between characters or anything about characters you should like, or on the other extreme, when they try to establish so much about characters that it's like, I really didn't need to know that. That's not really pertinent to the plot. Why did you tell me that? And this movie does such a good job of giving you exactly what you need, to where, just like you said, Mike, every character has a purpose, something that they're on the screen to do.
Right. So did you have any favorite characters or performances?
I mean, we'll get to who I thought slayed the movie later, but I really liked all of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can start with Simon. So Nick Robinson, who his big role before this that people would know him from was, and I couldn't pinpoint where I knew him from while I was watching the movie, and then I looked after. He was one of the kids in Jurassic World. He was the older brother.
Yeah.
And not given much at all to do in that movie, except ogle some girls, ironically, and then run from dinosaurs. Here in this movie, he gets to ogle at some boys and run from fear of being outed. Yeah.
Which is like a dinosaur.
Exactly, it is. It's like a big dinosaur. he did such a great job of portraying that both that balance of the fear and the excitement. Like I thought he just really nailed this entire role. I mean, obviously it's the role that carries the movie. It's the, name.
Titler, whatever
Right.
that word is.
And so he had a lot that he had to do, and he nailed it. Just this movie is, regardless of every other performance, this movie makes or breaks based on that role.
Right, how he does.
And I thought he nailed it.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, he did so good in this movie that it made me want to go back and see something else that he'd done besides Jurassic World.
Right.
So last night on Amazon Prime, I watched a movie called The Kings of Summer. It's kind of a indie flick. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it was I think it came out in 2013. He plays like a 15-year-old kid that's having problems with his dad after his mom dies and stuff like that. But it's kind of dramatic, but it has some funny spots in there too. So not my official recommendation, but just if you want to check out something else that Nick Robinson did. It's not a great movie, but he did really well in it.
Yeah, I think that he also has a bright future. I want to see what he does.
That was going to be my next point. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see what he does from here because he did such a good job in this movie. Can't wait to see what he does as he, gets even older and is able to play some more young adult kind of roles. And
did you see him on Ellen?
No, I didn't.
So he was on Ellen. He was talking about how he's 22 and he's like, this is absolutely the last time I'm playing a kid in high school.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was one good thing about this movie. I hate movies that take place in a high school and everyone looks like they're like my age. Like they look like they're in their late 20s or early 30s. You're like, you are not a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of making these kids look age appropriate, even though most of them were in their at least the ones I looked up were like in their early 20s.
I have one exception to that, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. But this movie also had one of my favorite people in it who played a small but fun role, and that was Tony Hale plays the vice principal.
Yeah, he's actually in Boys of Summer too, in just a Kings of Summer. I mean, in a quick, tiny little cameo.
Well, I know him from Arrested Development,
right,
which is my favorite TV show of all time. He's Buster. And then in that show, and then of course now he's Gary in Veep. And
okay. I don't watch that one, but
Emmy for that one. Well, okay, so if you don't know his role as Gary in Veep, basically it's the exact same role as this movie.
Okay,
it's as if Gary stopped working for Selena Meyer and got a job as a vice principal after his failed, work in politics. So he just plays that role of kind of the awkward, young to middle-aged dude who
wants to still be,
who just so
connected.
desperately wants to fit in with wherever he is.
Yeah.
So in Veep, he's trying to fit in with the political world and wants to be part of that world, but like sticks out like a sore thumb. Same here, like he wants to be the cool vice principal who's talking about going on Tinder dates with the kids.
I loved after then Simon, is outed. He's wearing a rainbow flag pin on his lapel.
I know, that's such a subtle thing.
It was very subtle, but
I pointed out to my friend I was watching it with, I was like, he's wearing a rainbow flag pin. Like that little subtle, and this movie is full of those little things that just like take a moment and elevate it to another level. Like I loved that. I love that kind of subtle, like you might miss it,
right,
but it's there kind of joke. And so that cracked me up, and just his performance in general, that is a role that could be too over the top in the wrong hands, but he just plays it so well. It's just so naturally a Tony Hale kind of role that I loved it. Anytime I see him, I think he's awesome.
You know who else I could have seen doing that role, just to do your little game? My fantasy casting, Jim Parsons.
I'm just not a big what's that show?
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory. It's not my thing.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I haven't seen him in much else.
Being an out actor would have been kind of like, I could have just seen that as being a fun role for him.
Yeah, maybe.
But Tony Hale did a great job.
Yeah. I really liked him in that role. And then the others, I really loved. I mean, I thought all the kids did well and did really great, did exactly what they were asked to do. But I really loved the subtle role that the parents played. So
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner, who I fell in love with Alias back in the early
13
2000s.
going on 30.
I'm not. That's not much my thing.
Really? I
I was
love that
always
movie.
a big Alias fan. I love 13 Going on 30, but every time I see her, I think of Sydney Bristow from Alias. Lately, she's only been doing Capital One commercials, so it's good to see her in a role where she's doing something great. I kind of halfway expected, mid movie for her to be like, "Okay, Simon, do you want to go get lunch? Oh, my Capital One card. What's in your wallet?
In your wallet? Yeah. A condom?
Hopefully." But no, I thought she did really well, and Josh Duhamel did really well as the
Daddy
dad.
Duhamel.
Oh, he was a sexy piece of man.
Oh, wow.
But that's how we know we're getting old, Mike. We watch this movie and we look, Daddy, instead of the gay kid.
Right.
But he did really well. I thought they both especially shined with the way they portrayed the reactions to him coming out.
Yeah.
I thought that was really touching, and
It seemed authentic too. Just
Yeah.
the mother is just, oh honey, and the dad is like just confused.
yeah, but also confused and wanting so much to still relate to his son and
Right.
looking for ways to relate and being apologetic and still wanting to have that same kind of relationship he had. And then the mom, that sense of relief that, she didn't know her son was gay. And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. That was the part I
That
cried.
scene was
where
amazing.
she said, for the past few years, I could tell you were just holding on to something. And now you've let it go. And I'm so proud of you. And now you get to be you again. That, tearjerker. I was losing it.
When she said, so I'm somewhat paraphrasing here, but she said, you get to be the most authentic you that you've been able to be for years.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's when I started losing it because, and not to get too personal, but like, anyone out there listening who may have someone come out to them in their life, that's what you say. That nailed it. Like, that is exactly what you should say. And, my parents never said that to me. My first friends I came out to never said that to me. And the moment I heard that on the screen, that's why I started blubbering. I was like, this is what we want to hear from people whenever that is the absolute right reaction. Right. And oh my gosh, I'm about to cry even thinking about it right now. Like, that was perfection, and she delivered it so well. It was just flawless. I loved that moment.
Yeah, and then on the dad's side, then him wanting to start a Grindr account.
Oh my God, I Mike, I literally was like, me and my friends we're like, no, don't do that. That's not what that's for. Because he says, we'll get a Grindr. That's like, Facebook for gay people. And we were like, no.
And Simon says,
it was like in a horror movie whenever they're like, don't do it. We were like, don't, Daddy, don't. But then we were like, oh wait, Josh Duhamel's going to get on Grindr. Do it, Daddy, do it.
Well, so first time seeing the movie, and my daughter saying, I was afraid she was going to say, what is Grindr?
Oh God.
I didn't want to have to explain that.
Oh God. Yeah, no. But I like that. That was a good joke too. I mean, the little subtle jokes about, gay stuff. Again, it could be, there's a world where this movie gets made and it's just too campy. It's too over the top. The jokes are too like in your face. This was subtle but fun.
Right.
And I really liked that, how they brought some of that humor in.
So let me ask you, do you think any of that might be because of who directed it?
Yeah, so Greg Berlanti directed it, who is an out gay man.
Right.
Actually, it's
mostly known for like the CW Arrowverse. I think this might be his first movie.
No.
Oh, it's not?
No. In fact, his first movie he directed is one we should definitely do a Rainbow Rewind about one day. But it's called Broken Hearts Club.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
It is you can definitely tell the difference between where, like, how much he's grown as a director and a screenwriter since then, because he also wrote and directed that movie. And while I really like that movie, and anytime it's on, I have to watch it because it's a fun watch. This movie is infinitely better than that one. So we'll have to watch that one and make it a Rainbow Rewind someday soon.
I like it.
I also really liked before he did all the like Arrowverse stuff. He did a show called Everwood.
Okay.
Do you remember that one?
I'm not familiar with that one.
And that was a big show for me back when I was in high school and starting college. It was one of those what's that, UPN, then became the WB or whatever show, like drama, teen dramas. Yeah.
Which
so
basically, the first go of the CW.
yeah. So I really liked that show. So he's done some stuff I like. That show actually is where Chris Pratt got his start.
Really?
On Everwood. Yeah, you should check it out.
I will have to check.
He
that
played
out now.
a teenage
Was he
older
gay?
brother. No.
Oh, okay.
He was dumb jock. Yeah.
That's still okay.
But still cute. But yeah, so that's where he got his start in that dramatic role. But so Greg Berlanti has done some really cool stuff. But this by far, I think, is of the stuff I've seen that he's done, especially comparing Broken Hearts Club to Love, Simon, like this just masterful storytelling, like perfect movie kind of thing for me.
And Greg Berlanti is married to
Robbie Rogers,
who I didn't
sexy soccer player Robbie Rogers.
Formerly of the Columbus Crew, Robbie Rogers.
Yeah.
But I didn't catch it in the movie itself, but I saw in the credits that Robbie Rogers played the soccer coach in the movie.
Oh, missed that.
So I don't even think he had any lines. He was probably just like standing off to the side. So
Looking pretty.
Yeah, looking pretty.
That says a lot about the quality of this movie, Mike, that Robbie Rogers could be right there on the screen and I don't even notice because I am so into the movie. Because that is a sexy man right there.
I did tweet him and said, if you wanted to come back to Columbus and watch it with me, I'd be happy to do that.
How generous of you, Mike.
Sacrifices we make.
But no, so...
if I have any criticisms of the movie at all, though, for the most part, the plot moved along fine, but there were a couple times where I felt like it kind of jumped kind of quickly. Specifically, the where it went from Halloween to Christmas, and they were back to school, skipping New Year's Eve. It worked, but for whatever reason, that there was a little chunk of time there where I just felt like it just jumped ahead too quickly.
Yeah, that didn't bother me at all. If anything, I really liked how they used the holidays. So Halloween and Christmas play a role in this movie. And I liked how that really demonstrated how much time had moved on instead, because there could have been some other more tropey ways that they could have done that. But instead, again, that's one of the great subtle things about this movie is, okay, this takes place just a couple months later because now it's Christmas instead of Halloween.
I think it was specifically Christmas Day, they're opening presents, and then, he does his coming out, and I guess there is a little break there, though, when he starts Googling how to dress like a gay guy before going back to school. But it just, for some reason, it kind of felt like it went from Christmas to going back to school, and they were supposed to be on winter break. I don't know why that is sticking out to me, but
see, I thought that was smart how they, for me at least, because it gave a little window of time where he had time to think about how he was going to react when he got back to school.
Yeah.
Because if it was something where it happened over like a weekend or on a Wednesday night and he was going to school the next day, like that can get really dicey. Like I kind of liked that touch of it's Christmas break, so you're not even going to see these people. These people have like weeks potentially, or at least a couple weeks maybe, to talk and gossip and all this kind of stuff, to where then it makes more sense when he comes back to school and everyone's eyes are on him and there's kind of this separation. And it gave enough time where it made sense that, when he goes to see his friends when he's driving to school the first day after break, that they've pieced together all the things he did to stay closeted.
Yeah.
And are, have progressed in their own lives enough to where it makes sense. So I kind of liked the timeline. I thought they did a good job of using holidays and timelines wisely to give them some space to have some character development that maybe happen off screen.
I don't know. It's a nitpick. And
Yeah.
99% of the people listening to this aren't gonna think about it like I did. It was just one of those. It was just a minor thing.
Yeah, none of that really, happened for me. I really have no nits to pick for this one. It really, I liked everything about it, and I thought really hard about what to not like about this movie. Now, I do have a shadiest take. I will give you that later, but I really thought the pacing was great. I thought that everything kind of flowed in a very natural way. Like we already discussed, characters.
The soundtrack was great.
Yeah, the music
Love
was
the
used very
music.
well. The music had this kind of like retro 80s kind of feel
Yeah.
to it. And his character had kind of had some hints to like liking some retro stuff and some older
I got to
stuff.
tell you, anytime I see a record player in a movie, I instantly get excited.
Yeah, and that may
And
have
he has the same turntable that I have, so I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool.
So that may have made the movie even feel maybe a little more timeless too. Although there's a lot of references to like some modern technology that may get aged
Yeah.
in a while. But I don't know. I did like the music. I thought the music was used very effectively. I thought everything kind of flowed, at least for me, perfectly. I know movies are a very personal experience, and for me, everything went very just perfectly.
Speaking of music, okay, so there's my daughter's favorite band is Panic at the Disco.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the movie where he says one of the things that that gave him a clue was that he developed an obsession with Panic at the Disco, and he realized it wasn't just for the music, because Brendan Urie, who is the lead singer, is like, oh my God, ask my daughter about him, and it's oh my God, and she's got posters on the wall, and she was like, I will fight him for him. But anyway, I just thought that was cute.
Yeah. My inside reference for this movie that I lost my mind about. So yours was the record player. Your daughter was the Panic at the Disco. Mine, this movie's set in Georgia, which I loved. I loved the little, and there's a lot of movies that are filmed in Georgia and Atlanta right now because there's a lot of, tax incentives that they use that we don't need to get into weeds there. But I really like that they really set this movie in Georgia because, this movie was already relating to me so much.
Right.
I was relating to it on so many levels. And then I started seeing these little hints, like he was wearing an Atlanta Braves hat at one point. The dad was. And then there's this restaurant in Atlanta called The Varsity. And I know we have some Atlanta listeners, so they know what I'm talking about. But there's this little like old school burger joint called The Varsity. And they have these little red caps they give out. And Simon has one in his room.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then the coming out scene, I was kind of distracted because the dad was wearing a University of Georgia shirt. I was like tapping my friend who was sitting next to me. I was like, hey, go dogs, go dogs. It's Georgia, Georgia. And so that even like made me smile even more, like a little touch like that no one else can relate to. But I really loved that. And so I liked how they used the location in the movie because it just made it even more relatable to me. That's something that's super personal. There are people listening to this are probably like,
Yeah.
who cares? But I liked how, I was able to find those personal connections to it. It meant a lot to me.
One of the other things that they did through the movie, after he emails Blue for the first time,
So yeah, Blue is
Blue is
the anonymous character who comes out.
yeah, on
Yeah.
the blog. When they start emailing, each time Simon thinks he knows who it is. So initially when they'll have Blue in kind of a blue tint, just some random kid typing on the computer and signing, doing the emails back. But each time Simon thinks that he knows who it is, that person changes to the person that he thinks he is, that is narrating the letters and typing out. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah. And you know what I thought the twist was going to be at first? I thought Blue was going to turn out to be a girl. Because at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at least in the first post, that Blue post where Blue says, I'm gay, I don't think they used any like pronouns or anything. And so I kind of was like, oh my gosh, I bet it's gonna, like, he's gonna get a crush on this person. It's gonna end up being like one of the girls.
That would have been an interesting twist.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do
Right,
that because of how it ended up.
Yeah.
Because I kind of liked the cheesy romantic ending. But that's where I thought it was going for a little while. I thought, oh my gosh, it's gonna be one of these girls, and then, but it wasn't. So,
And you know, that was one of the I think for me the detriments of reading the book first is because I knew who Blue was,
Yeah.
and everybody in the theater when it was revealed, you know, the gasps, and there were a couple people I heard clapping like that's who they wanted it to be and stuff like that, and so that was a little sad for me that I
you didn't
already,
get to experience that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a really fun part of the movie that I'm sad that now every time I re-see it or rewatch it, I'm not going to be able to have that surprise.
Yeah.
Because I thought the movie did a really good job of building that suspense and making you wonder who Blue was, and you kind of experiencing that through Simon's perspective. And I thought that was a really good touch with, you know, showing the narration of Blue's post through whoever Simon thought it was at that time.
Yeah.
Because it then made you think, oh, it's that person, only to realize maybe it's not. And then, yeah, so I really liked how the movie did those subtle things to make you experience it through Simon's perspective.
So the one character that we haven't talked about yet is the kid who posted the screenshots of Simon's emails.
Oh yeah, the guy who outed him, Martin.
Yeah. And so he's trying to get with Abby, the newest friend in their group. So part of the plot of the movie is that he blackmails Simon into helping him get a date or just get close to
yeah, he finds out that Simon's gay, screenshots the emails between Simon and Blue, and then blackmails Simon into helping set him up with Abby.
Right. It's kind of weird because like you hate the kid, but at the same time it's like you kind of feel for him too, because obviously he's kind of socially awkward and has a hard time.
So the thing about Martin, yeah, that's one character. Again, the way they build characters in this movie is so great and authentic. Like Martin should be treated like, if this was an 80s movie, Martin would just be a villain. Like he would just be a jerk, you know. But
instead, had a Judd Nelson feel to me.
Well, yeah. So instead, he did feel very human, and there were parts of the movie where you're like, oh, this is like a nice guy, but then you had to remind yourself, oh wait, he is like blackmailing Simon and threatening to out him to everyone,
Right?
And that's one of the worst things you can do. But you know, in one breath he does that, in another breath he is helping build Abby's confidence, and you know, helping her with that in the Waffle House.
I think the feeling for him kind of stopped once those emails went live.
Yeah. So when he actually outs Simon, that is just heartbreaking. I was just, oh my gosh. So when Simon like encounters him in the parking lot, I literally said out loud, punch him in the face. Because that's just, and one of these things, the movie, again, the way these characters are written is so wonderful and flawless to me. And the way Simon just yells at him about, that's supposed to be my moment. I'm supposed to get to do that. That you took that away from me. That is just, you know, a punch in the gut. I loved how they did that. And
that scene has the one F-bomb in the whole movie, but it's not out of place or anything like. I mean,
it was certainly better than punching him in the face, which is what I was screaming at the screen I was in to do. But it just was, it did a really good job. You know, if you are gay, you get that. I think it did a good job, and we would have to ask a straight person probably, but I think for a straight person, I think it did a good job of portraying just why outing someone is such a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know if straight people always get that, you know? And so I thought that the way Simon was talking to him about it, it was almost like, you know, telling every straight person, hey, this is why you do not do, and not just straight people, like gay people who threaten out other gay people. Like,
that happens.
this is why you do not do that, is because that is something, really the only part of coming out that we get to choose is the actual act of doing it. And to be robbed of that is such a mean, terrible thing to do.
It's a crime.
Yeah, and so I thought that the way that they wrote that scene was just really well done.
Yeah.
The movie overall was a really good portrayal of what coming out is like for people to relate to who maybe haven't had to do that before. Like, I even like the little scene where they were trying to relate, you know, what if straight people had to come out?
I was just about to bring that up.
Yes.
Yeah, the montage of why is straight the default.
Exactly. Like, I thought this movie did a really good job. They built it up to where a straight audience could watch it and relate to it too. I would assume. I would love to talk to a straight person about their reaction to it and what they thought about it. Because I think if they watched this movie, they would understand more what it's like to have that fear of coming out and what that's like.
All right, straight listeners, somebody who has seen the movie,
All of our straight listeners are hundreds of straight listeners.
all thousands of you straight
who
listeners
happen to like listening to a gay movie podcast for some reason.
let us know what you thought of that scene in particular.
Yeah. Jeremy or
Tim,
whoever you are, let us know.
so do you have any other specific points that you want to talk about with the movie?
No, I think we've covered all of it. There's only so much gushing over this movie I can do, I think.
Right, I think so. So why don't we go ahead and start off with your gayest take?
So my gayest take is about a character we have not talked about, which is kind of a crime.
Okay.
Because he was one of my favorite characters. But I want an entire movie, spin-off movie about Ethan, the other gay kid.
Yeah.
At the school. So he is this really flamboyant, out there gay kid. They have this hilarious scene where he comes out to all of his girlfriends that he hangs out with. And they're all like, oh my God, we didn't know. And then one girl like reacts very strongly and the other girl looks at her and goes, too much. Like, I loved him. I loved his quips. I loved his comebacks. I thought he was a great character. And I loved the scene between him and Simon
In the principal's office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where Simon is telling him, well, it was so much easier. It must have been so much easier for you because he's a more, you know, flamboyant character. And he starts talking about just how his mom talks about the girls he's dating with his grandma because she doesn't want grandma to know that he's gay.
Yeah.
And how hard that is for him. And I thought that was such a human, again, this character could have been just this, you know, caricature of flamboyant gayness. And they took that moment to really make him a human. And I loved that. I love that scene. I love that conversation between the two of them. And I love this character. I want to see an entire Ethan movie. I want to see Love Ethan. The squeakquel to Love Simon. I want to see that movie.
So for me, my gayest take was the college dance scene to the Whitney Houston song.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fantasy scene, so it's not something that actually happened, but that was definitely a bit of an over the top kind of scene.
Yeah.
But it fit in that context. But you know, there's pride stuff all over the walls inside the university and a pride flag hanging outside of the college, and they're coming out and dancing.
But that was another part of the movie that I related to so much because there's part where Simon is even thinking about, okay, do I just ride out the rest of high school and then come out when I go to college and have a fresh start? And that's exactly what I did. Like, I came out to one friend in high school. She reacted very poorly to it. And so I was like, ooh, I'm just going to wait and just keep being the me that these people know. And then when I get to college, and so I felt like my entire senior year of high school was me kind of living through my mind that Whitney Houston college pride
Yeah,
flags
yeah.
dance fantasy. And so I love that scene and just that notion of like wondering what that life is going to be like when you finally get to be out in this entirely new setting. I thought that was great.
Awesome. So with all that gushing, then let's. I'm really curious now to find out what your shadiest take is.
So my shadiest take, so there's the scene where they go to the Halloween party. Okay, Mike, in 2018, what do you think the odds are that a 17-year-old going to a Halloween party would dress up as John Lennon?
Well, to be fair, as we just discussed, the kid has kind of an affinity for retro.
Yeah, but I just don't know. Like, I don't think that is the route anyone would go. I was thinking it would have been funnier, and maybe this is the campy side of me that likes this, but I thought it would have been funnier if, okay, so he's trying to, not look gay. So what if he had gone as something super butch,
Yeah.
like what if he had gone as Ronaldo, to try to, or, something even more butch than that. But I don't know. I was like, really, a 17-year-old kid's going to go as John Lennon? Like, I saw that. I was kind of like, ugh, really?
Yeah.
That's the one part. That was the one part of the movie where I was taken out a little bit. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't even think people in my generation relate to the Beatles much. Not to mention someone even younger than me.
That's possible. Mine was I actually had a hard time coming up with the shadiest take, to be honest with you, other than the little pacing quibble that I had earlier. But the only thing I could really think of was just the dad's gay jokes.
But that was part of it.
But that was part of it, and I in my thoughts then I'm even saying, and he apologizes for that later. But and it's not really throwing shade at the movie. It's more just that character just.
But here's the thing about that, Mike, is I think that, again, that's a smart thing that the movie does, because people do throw around those kinds of jokes all the time. And I think a lot of the jokes that Dad was making was pointing out that the default is straight.
Right.
So him walking in on Simon and he thinks he's masturbating to some supermodel chick, and you see the effect that has on Simon.
Yeah.
Of like, oh gosh, like it just reinforces for a kid how hard it'll be to come out, because your parents are operating under the assumption that you are this straight person. So I liked how they did. I get the shade of like, it's shitty and no one should do it.
Right.
But
and that's really my only
right, like, but I liked how it reinforced the expectations that the dad was placing on him, completely unknowingly.
Yeah. So with the cast of characters that we've got here and all the great actors, who would you say slayed?
Someone we have not talked about. She was my favorite character by far. You probably
Oh my
know.
God, we've got the same person.
The drama teacher.
Yes.
Mrs.
Mrs. Albright.
She killed it. I loved her. I want to see an entire movie about her.
Yeah, I'd like to see a sitcom.
Oh gosh,
about her.
She was hilarious.
I loved every single word that came out of her mouth.
Such a well-written character. Didn't have a lot to do in the movie, but anytime she was on the screen, she stole whatever scene she was in.
Yeah.
She is hilarious. I don't know who that actress is.
Her name is Natasha Rothwell.
Yeah, I want to see more of her. Like, seeing those little bits of her in this movie, I want to see her, take on something else. And maybe she's been in something else. I need to look, but she was hilarious. I love that character.
Yeah, that was hands down, as far as like the satellite characters, if you will. She was the standout.
But that's something, like, in a movie with such strong characters and so many great performances, the fact that character slayed the movie,
Yeah.
I think also just speaks to the quality of the movie itself, that like every character, like you said at the beginning, like has a role, plays that role, and I think plays it perfectly.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it's kind of hard to say here, but did you have a no, ma'am?
Mike, I always like to throw shade. I always like to find something to complain about. And I couldn't like, I really liked every performance. I don't think that they wasted a single role, that didn't need to be there. I thought every interaction served a purpose, demonstrated something that the audience needed, or at least benefited from. So I'm not going to give a no ma'am for this one. I don't even want to sully it with a no ma'am. I loved every performance.
Well, that is
That is kind of you. Here is my. Is that where you're going?
that's wonderful that you think that. But I actually do have a no ma'am.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're the one throwing. I'm usually the mean one. You get to be the mean one. Okay, Mike. Throw
Okay.
someone under the bus. Who do you hate? Who do you think ruined this movie?
Waffle House Lyle. So
I'm just picturing someone you refer to as Waffle House Lyle. Of course, that's a terrible person.
I'm gonna kind of bring back from a something that we were saying earlier. We were talking about some of the actors being older but still fitting the high school.
Yeah.
Not him.
Yeah, Waffle House Lyle had some years on him, for sure.
Yeah. So the actor is Joey Polari. He's actually been in the news recently for something good. Shortly before Love, Simon came out, so did he.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he publicly came out as gay.
Good for him.
So I mean, he was adorable as all get out.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I thought he acted well. But yeah, to me, he did not look like.
How old is he in real life?
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was starting to say that. So, he's 23. He's a year older than Nick Robinson.
Okay, but he looks older.
He looks older.
Yeah. Nick Robinson looks like he could be 17.
Yeah.
And this guy looks 23.
Yeah. And maybe that's what it is. It's not like he looks old.
Right.
He just doesn't look like he's in high school.
Right. He definitely, he looks too old to be at that school.
But I feel like if that's
He got held back a few years.
Yeah. I feel like if that's the worst thing that I can come up with to say about somebody that's in the movie, that's not terrible.
So you heard it first here, folks. Mike hated this movie because of Lyle from Waffle House.
Waffle House Lyle killed this movie.
Trash this movie.
I hate it.
Hates it. Mike hates it.
I'd rather go see A Wrinkle in Time again.
Send your hate mail to Mike Lovins.
All joking aside, the general consensus here is that this is a great movie.
I think we liked it.
I think so.
I think we liked it.
So let's be real.
Let's reel it in, Mike. Let's reel it in on Love, Simon. How many reels are you giving this one?
If we had anything higher, it would probably get it. But I'm going 4 reels, baby.
4 reels.
4 reels.
4 reels. Yeah, same, Mike. Samesies. Not to be so gay, but I love this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's just so good. And, we didn't get a chance to review it, but I loved Black Panther earlier this year. I thought it was so great, but this one bumps that as my favorite movie of the year so far. I just connected so much with this movie. Couldn't recommend it more. I think I will be revisiting this one for years and years and years to come, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies still to come out this year, but I can almost guarantee that this will at least be in my top 5.
It'll definitely be in the top 10, for sure.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine 10 movies being better than this year.
I mean, we came out of it and, it was my second screening already, but then as soon as we walked out, Pete was like, I want to see it again.
I know, and I've only seen it the one time, and I'm already itching to see it again.
Yeah, it's like, I can't wait to own it. I can't wait to keep watching it over and over again.
It's one I can't wait to, like, if someone says they haven't seen it, I feel like this is going to be a movie like, okay, stop everything we're doing. We're sitting down. We're watching Love, Simon.
Yeah.
Like, that's this kind of movie.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it.
Yep.
All right. So, do you have any recommendations for this week?
Weekly recommendations.
Get your answers here.
Oh, God. I was not ready for the depth of your voice, sir. Okay. Get it together. Okay. So, Mike, my recommendation this week, I actually managed to see 2 movies this week. Love, Simon, and another LGBT-focused film
Okay.
that I want to highly recommend. This movie, it's called A Fantastic Woman, and it actually won the Academy Award this year for just a few weeks ago for Best Foreign Language Film. And it's a Chilean film about a trans woman who's in a relationship with an older guy. And they're in a really caring, loving relationship. And then one night, he suddenly and unexpectedly passes away. And the whole movie deals with the aftermath of his death and his family, who is not a big fan of the trans main character. They don't like her, and so they're trying to keep her away from like his funeral, all their shared possessions. They're trying to take away from her, like his car and apartment, and the police, because of the suddenness of his death and some negative stereotypes they hold about, the relationships like these between a trans woman and an older well-off man. They're kind of harassing her, and so it was just really kind of a heartbreaking movie, but just so beautiful and so well done. And what I loved about it is the actress they got to play the main character was actually a trans actress. She's a singer and an actress, and her name is Daniela Vega, and she gives such a great performance that after seeing this movie, one of my first reactions was, I am mad that she was not nominated for a Best Actress award for the Oscars. Like, I love you, Meryl Streep, but Daniela Vega should have gotten nominated instead of her. I mean, it was a really strong year for the lead actress category, but I think it just would have been so powerful to see a trans woman nominated in that category. And my hope is that, maybe they'll remake this movie in America, in English, and have a actual trans actress play the lead role, and maybe it'll get some more attention than it would, in its current form as a Spanish language movie with subtitles. I know a lot of people don't like to go to movies and read, but with this recommendation, I also just want to give a huge shout out to the Gateway Film Center here in Columbus, because they carry movies like this that we wouldn't get to see if not for the Gateway being there.
Okay, because I was going to ask if this was something that you actually saw in the theater.
Yeah, so I saw it at Gateway. Gateway brings in a lot of independent movies that don't see the light of day at some other bigger chain theaters. And so I love that we have something like the Gateway here in town where we can go to. I recommended the Hump Film Festival a few weeks ago. That is only possible because the Gateway brings it here every year. This movie, A Fantastic Woman, possible because the Gateway brought it here. And so I just love the Gateway. Can't recommend going to them enough to support your local theater that brings in cool, interesting movies. And so recommending A Fantastic Woman, sub-recommending with that, the Gateway Film Center here in Columbus, Ohio.
Awesome. So mine is a movie that came out after we had gotten started doing this show, but it came out while we were still doing like our introductory episode and Oscar recap and stuff. But it's Annihilation.
Yeah.
With Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it, and Oscar Isaac. Mm-hmm. It also had Tessa Thompson, who was in Thor Ragnarok. And it also has Gina Rodriguez, who is in Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
But it was directed by Alex Garland, and he did, a couple years ago, he did Ex Machina.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. So the movie is fantastic. It's a thinker, though.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go in knowing that you need to pay attention to what's going on. And it's definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I do think that, man, if you're up for the challenge, it's a worthy watch.
Yeah. It's really good. I saw it too. I know we texted a little bit about this one when we saw it. It's definitely a slow burn. It's not for people who are looking for the kind of sci-fi where it's a lot of spaceship battles and explosions and all that kind of stuff. It's very much a slow burn, very smart, but very creepy and fun.
Yeah.
And the big reveals are like jaw dropping and the visuals are beautiful.
But when I was looking for movie times for Love, Simon, I noticed that it was still in the theater, so I thought I wanted to get that out there while it was still out there, because it definitely works the best, I would imagine, on the big screen, just the way the visuals are in this movie.
Yeah, great watch for sure.
Yeah.
Good recommendation, Mike.
All right. So, Ryan, do you have anything else that you want to say for this episode in general?
Absolutely not. Except I'm glad we finally saw a movie that we love. So 2018 is turning around. I hope it only gets better from here.
Better, onward and upward. And
Onward and upward.
if you're still with us, thanks for sticking it out. You've been rewarded.
Yay!
Yay!
We had a good one.
Okay. Well, all right. So with that, then I'm gonna say let's go ahead and call it a night. Then, what do you think?
Yeah. Before we do, as always, follow us online at Twitter
At Real Gay,
on Instagram and Facebook at
Real Gay Movie Show.
There you go. So make sure to follow us, give us a like, a subscribe, swipe right, double tap us, whatever the case may be. But make sure to follow us, because the bigger following we get, the more fun we have, because we know we're talking to more people.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, go ahead
Like.
and give us rate the show for us. And if you could possibly put in a little description, it just kind of helps our ratings on iTunes.
Yeah, say something about us.
Say something nice, preferably, but say
You can throw some shade. Throw some shade at us. We're big boys. We can handle it.
but we might throw it back at you.
Yeah, don't throw shade unless shade can be taketh as well.
Only throweth if you can taketh.
You know, a guy said that to me on Grindr recently. So I'm going to say it to our listeners too.
All right,
What
everybody.
better way to end this?
All right, so hope your day is real gay.